So I am Stephanie Potter. I'm a senior product manager at Tableau. I specialize in supportability. So that means I find pain points that customers encounter with the product in a trending sort of way, and I work with the dev teams all the way across the org to build solutions for those problems into the product so that hopefully people don't encounter them again. Which means that I deal with driving change every day. And while I am not an expert, we've learned a few things that I'm hoping to share with you all, because change is something that we all do, and we all need to try and impact. And so any lesson that anybody learns is a good way to gather information. Tableau's mission, I'm sure you've all seen and heard it, help people see and understand their data. Well, today I'm going to take it one step further and say that we want to help people see and understand their data so that they can change their behavior. Because if you don't change the behaviors and you don't create new patterns and new habits, change and data is just the start of a conversation that goes nowhere. So they told me we had to have an agenda slide. I decided that I would give you my agenda. The goal for me is that you all walk out of here with an understanding and some strategies towards building new habits amongst your users in order to impact the changes and drive them forward in a way that you want that stays. So we're going to give some examples. I'm giving examples from the development team only because I am a part of the development team, and so that's where I see those examples on a regular basis. I'm sure that the finance people could give you their examples, HR, ops. Everybody has examples like this. I am not a very formal, you must wait and ask your questions at the end kind of speaker. So if something strikes you and you have a question about it, do this. I will happily call on you and we can have a conversation while we're going through. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask if you could move that away, because I like to talk to the people I'm speaking with. So, how many of you have ever felt like this when trying to drive change? Thank you. Yes, exactly. It's a common phenomenon. And so one of the things we need to do is get beyond that to actually accomplishing change in a way that is not painful for everyone, but is something that people look forward to and embrace, which is a strange concept, I will admit. But we can do it. I know we can. So there were some things that we in development needed to change, and these are just in the last couple years. We have grown a lot, and our customer base, all of you all, have grown a lot. And so there's a disconnect that can happen if you are growing a lot and your customers are growing a lot, and all of a sudden what used to be an easy sit down, have a coffee conversation is no longer plausible. So that was one of the things we had to solve for. Another thing is we've been working in the same code base for more than 10 years. And how many of you all have systems that have grown organically over time? Now, let me ask you this. Do those systems always work perfectly? Do you ever have this little thing over here off the side that's kind of hanging on very tightly, but it doesn't really seem integrated or make sense? Yeah, well, our code base had some of that. In fact, our code base had a surprising amount of that. Oh, oops, I had 2 S's. And then the other one is customer cases. Because as the company grows, tech support is going to get more customer cases. I would like to think that we build perfect, completely understandable software that someone would be able to open up and never have any questions about. Does that seem particularly realistic? No. So, one of the things we had to do was make sure that our customer case growth rate was not overwhelming and that we could scale as we worked with it. So, understanding our customers' needs. We have grown a lot, as I said, and one of the things that we found was that having customer conversations, while still really important, was no longer as easy as it used to be. When you've got, 50,000 different accounts, and you've got maybe 20, 30 product managers, those folks aren't going to be able to talk to everyone every week, every month, let alone every year. Even that's not good. So we needed to know who our folks were and what they needed and what their use cases and their business. And so we needed to change how product management approached that. And then we also, I'm realizing that I looked at that. And then this was that code base I was telling you about. And so we needed to change our dependencies, and we needed to change our kind of intertwined complexity of code. So that was our second. And then this again was our customer cases, which I forgot I had this slide for. So one of the things you guys will notice was that this curve right here matches that curve right there. Oh, although that spike right there, and that spike right there, and that spike right there, can anybody guess what those are from? No. Tableau conference. All of the doctor cases. It took us a while to figure out, why are we spiking every year? Oh, wait. We invite people to come and talk to us. It's great. But we couldn't scale this because we fully expected as a company, we're going to go up and up and up. That's our goal. But you can't go up and up and up with your with your tech support cases. So we had to change some behaviors. So one of the things that we've discovered in making changes and sometimes failing and sometimes succeeding was that there are three main components that we have found really useful for changing behaviors and building new habits. You need the head, the heart, and the hands. And we're giving it to you in the nice little three-piece thing because it's easy to remember, it's easy to apply, as long as you think about it before you start. So the head, the heart, and the hands, meaning if people don't understand intellectually, they're not even going to start to engage. But on the other hand, if they don't have any emotional buy-in, they're going to have an interesting conversation with you, and then they're going to walk away, and they're going to go, oh, yeah, that was something. We need to think about that. But they're not going to do anything. And so in order to do something, you need to make concrete goals that change their behavior. So within our customer needs challenge, what we found was that we needed to ask some questions of our data. And we said, well, we're a data company. We've got to have data on this, right? And so are there ways that we could use our data to make people intellectually interested, emotionally impacted, and willing to make a commitment? And so what we did was we started gathering data sources. Because when you have a lot of customers, how many of you have more than 5 customers? Yeah, exactly. How many of you have more than 10 customers? You can't, each of those 10 customers is going to have a different story, right? They're going to have a different set of needs. They're going to have a different set of wants. And you need to figure out how to address those needs. So one of the things that we do is we engage our customer base. How many of you have ever been to the Tableau community online site? Yeah. Have you noticed that the large number of people in there are really helpful, and they're engaged, and they comment, and they talk, and if you ask a question in there, they will give you an answer? Sometimes it'll be Tableau folks, but most often it's community people. And that is an amazing resource of people, because these are people who use the product, they have concrete needs, and they are willing to engage with you and tell you what we want, what they need. So what we did was we've got this ideas forum. And each of these little boxes represents an idea or a feature request that one of our customers has made. And so it's this fabulous wealth of data. And then the reason that these are colored is they indicate how many people have voted for each of those ideas. Have any of you ever submitted an idea? Yeah? Excellent. Thank you very much. We appreciate getting your feedback. So one of the things that we are finding is that we have this data set, and it's great, but how do you get people to engage with it if they're product managers and they have all sorts of, other tasks to do, but we really think this is important. So the way we did it to get them to engage with the Ideas Forum on a very regular basis was we started sending out weekly highlights about the Ideas Forum specifically. So that we have somebody who goes through and runs a series of reports that synthesize the new data from those ideas reports every week, and it shows not only what's coming up and what's new, but where have Tableau people gone and looked at these ideas? So that we can say, okay, are we looking at the data on a regular basis? And the individual commitment that we asked was we send out the ask to every product manager to please go to the Ideas Forum at least once a week. And then in order to get people to do it, we track whether any PMs have actually been there. And then in our email conversation that we send out every week about this, we highlight those people who have been stars and talk to multiple people about their ideas on the forum. And so we've done, by using the forum itself, which are customer-submitted ideas written in the customer's own words, telling about their own pain, and then asking PMs to be very cognizant and aware that they need to look at this every week. And we reinforce that message. Another way we do it is through customer feature requests. So this is, again, like the forums, it's the ideas that people want, except these customer feature requests come in through tech support. So with this one, we get thousands and thousands a year of feature requests because customers use data in different and new and amazing ways. And so we had to create a way, we couldn't just synthesize the highlights like we do for forums, because forums and tech support feature request inputs are a different scale of data. You get, tens to maybe 100 requests in the Ideas Forum in a week, but you could get 1,000 different runs through tech support in a week. You don't often, but you could. And so what we found was that to get our development team to engage with this more, we had to sort the data into categories that matched their perception of the world. So if I'm a data, dev, well, I want to look at the data category. Or if I'm a server dev, I want to be able to look at server category of things. So we sorted the data and presented it in a way that was meaningful to the individual using the data. And we allow them to filter to ask questions about the data and to investigate. But then we also, by having a secondary source, we have the Ideas Forum and the customer feature requests, we eliminate some of the bias that is inherent in only having a single data source. So by having multiple data sources, we engage more of our development team because they look at it and go, oh, yeah, okay, so we saw this same idea here that we saw in the forum. That's cool. That means that there's some confirmation there. Gesundheit. And so what we did by providing multiple data sources to broaden the impact of the data we were presenting, provide confirmation between the cross data sources, which is really useful. We used the customer's own words. So those tech support cases, those Ideas Forum requests, They're all written directly from the customer. And we can reach out to the customer and ask for clarification, but we at least have their initial impact. The why is this a painful thing for me as a customer? And then we said, well, we're going to make this a requirement that as you do your design and development and you write your specifications, you have to include information about the customers that you've talked to or the ideas you've visited or the feature requests you've reviewed so that we know as a strategic org, we are talking with customers. And that was a change in how we accomplish that because we've always talked to customers. But you have to change how you do things as you scale. And so for us, that was how we changed that. And then we have the code refactor. So we talked about how many of you have systems that have grown organically over time. And I saw a lot of hands go up. How many of you have systems that have gotten simpler as they've grown over time? There are no hands. I am not shocked. Because what every organization finds is that as you grow and you add on, you develop complexity and dependencies, and you get intertwined goals and ideas, and sometimes you actually even have competing goals in the same system. But your system has to accommodate them. So what do you have to do if at some point somebody says, you know, this old system, it's causing us pain. For our development org, the pain that it was causing was developer productivity impact. Build times were very slow, very slow. And so our people would make changes, and then they'd have to go walk away and do something else while they waited for those changes to propagate through the system. And we needed to make a technology switch to accommodate things like Hyper and the upcoming Maestro and things like that, where new technologies are so fundamentally game-changing that you have to alter the system. And what we found was that with each of these dependencies and with each of these scale changes, we were running into more and more challenges. So identifying the pain was really easy in this case. But then we needed to move on to the intellectual buy-in and the contribution and the requirements. So what we did was we use a process called TFS, which is our defect tracking system and our design tracking system. And we can export data from it. And so what we did was we said to every team, every development team, we said, look, these are the goals that we have for refactoring our system. And here's the pain that you as a team are feeling. And we showed them that data, which unfortunately I can't show to you. But we gave them that data and we said, yes, you've all said this anecdotally, that this is causing pain. Well, you know what? Here's the data to prove you're right. And so they had their own pain that they already knew. They had the data to prove where the problem points were, and then we could target the refactoring goals. Once we targeted the refactoring goals, we asked every dev team to make a commitment to what kind of, impact they were willing to have towards those goals. And we were able to and then we had them write stories about that impact within our tracking system. And those stories then became a series of vizzes. And this is one of them. And what this shows is each of these little circles is a commitment. Each of these is a team. And actually, these are areas. So there are multiple teams under the areas. And then each of these circles is a commitment. And in the viz itself, you could hover over any one of those dots, and it would show you the story that that team had written about what that commitment was. And then the state here showed you where they were in their progress on that story. And each of these colors here is a time commitment. So by presenting data that showed the individual level of commitment amongst the teams, then there were actually other vizzes that broke it down amongst those teams to be the individual contributor level commitment. And those individual commitment level vizzes went up on something that we call Tableau TV. So in our hallways, in our buildings, we have TVs. I'm sure a lot of you probably have seen this before in companies where they, show their new stuff or good customer quotes, or, well, we have a lot of data vizzes, not surprising, on our TVs. And so one of the things that we started putting up in our Tableau TV was the individual contribution or individual contributor recognition. There we go. And we found that people liked having their name up on the wall for doing good things. And it was a simple way of recognizing them. We weren't bribing them with anything. We weren't, doing anything that was challenging or painful to do, but we had to be willing to do it and put the data up there so that everybody saw the data every day. And so by doing all of that, we got huge amounts of behavioral change, because now everybody had a regular cadence on driving these refactoring changes. And it became a part of their daily life to think about how they could refactor and how they could make things go faster for their teams. So again, we had that data that showed exactly where the pain points were. It was not a problem for them. They knew viscerally, emotionally, that they were being blocked in their productivity. And we had the data show exactly where those blockages were happening. And we used that data to request commitments. And then we used more data to show how the commitments were being executed and to reward people for being willing to drive and go and follow through with their commitments. So then the third thing that I want to talk about is customer case growth. We established that most of you have more than 10 customers. Do any of your customers ever come to you and say, something's not working? Yes? I see some head nodding, yeah? Is it fun to have those conversations? No. Is it useful to have those conversations? Absolutely, because you are building your customer loyalty. You're building your understanding of what customers are trying to do with your products. You are building relationships. So you want to be able to execute on support cases, customer service interactions, all of those in a really high-level manner, right? It's important to your business to grow them. Well, as I showed you before, we had this curve that was going at the same rate. So we had to figure out a way to scale that. But the problem is, we all, on the development side, are very busy. And the technical support side said, hey, you know what, development, you're causing us pain. Because there are places in the product that need improvement. And so we had to figure out ways to have that conversation between tech support and development happen. And development is always wanting to go and run forward and do the new cool and fabulous features because everybody wants to be doing the new cool and fabulous features. But you've got to take care of the customers every day or you won't have any customers later. And so we had to find a way to make the development team acutely aware of the pain points that our customers were feeling. So what did we want to do, or how did we do that? We wanted to connect the teams to the customer pain points. And so we started a program we called Support Liaisons. And the Support Liaisons were senior technical support folks who were then assigned to a development team, and they were given 4 hours a week within the, so their support case metrics were reduced in order to accommodate that 4 hours a week. And their job was to bring the customer pain points and the customer perspective directly into those dev teams every week, so that they had the ability to be the voice of the customer in a very real and impactful way. And one of the ways we wanted them to do this was using data. Because tech support cases generate data, right? Customer support case, customer service cases generate data. It's all about the data that you've got. How many of you know how many customer cases you had in the last month? Nice, excellent. How many of you know what each of those customer cases was about? Ah, very nice. Most of us didn't. We knew we were having customer cases. We knew that our customers were feeling pain and filling out the support form, but we didn't have an easy way to look at those. And so one of the things that we found was that we needed to provide data. How many of you have read the book, If You Give a Moose a Muffin? Yes? Okay. So for those of you who haven't read the book, If You Give a Moose a Muffin, it starts off with the premise, if you give a moose a muffin, and then it goes on to what happens. Well, the moose doesn't necessarily eat the muffin. The moose may say, well, I would like some jam with the muffin. Or I would then, well, and if I've got jam, maybe I need a knife because I want to spread the jam on the muffin. And it just goes on and on and on. So we said, well, okay, let's take that premise. If we give a product manager a dashboard, will they go on and ask for more things? Will they explore? Will they engage and change their behavior? So this is my friend Aruna. She is an amazing product manager, and she is in charge of licensing for Tableau from a development standpoint. How many of you have ever encountered an issue with Tableau licensing? Wow, I'm actually surprised that there's only 2. Because one of the things we found out using data was that licensing cases are consistently in the top 5 of the the types of cases that happen. And so what we did was we built this dashboard. And then we gave it to all of the PMs, and we rolled it out through our support liaisons program. So the liaisons could take the dashboard to the PMs and have conversations with them about the data that we were collecting in tech support. And one of the things that we noticed in our One of the things that we noticed in our conversations that our licensing team had was that we had this error that was happening for our customers quite a lot. And it was happening across all versions, although a big jump in 10.0 and beyond. And we said, well, what's up with that? But it was because we had this conversation with Aruna, with the data, that we started the what's up with that conversation. So this dashboard was really useful to us, and especially in this configuration for Aruna, because each of these represents the number of cases, but then down here, these are the actual cases. And so we were able to tie the data from the tech support cases with the data around how many times they happened, and the tech support cases have the customer's own words about the pain. So we were connecting customer pain to the data team, to the development team through the support liaisons and the data we could present. And by having those support liaisons be the champions within the development team, there was a commitment from those tech support folks to help drive customer solutions. And so we used all of this data, and in the case of licensing, knowing that the top two problems were error max activations exceeded and managing Tableau product keys, our support liaisons and our development team worked together, and they built a new feature to help server admins track license keys so that then they wouldn't have to encounter those errors amongst their users. We changed product behavior, and we changed the behavior of the development team by offering them data in a usable, very well formatted fashion. So have any of you guys ever had conversations where somebody says, oh, you know, I'd like to do this, but I don't know if it's going to have an impact? Anybody had those conversations? So using data is a way to have those conversations in a very constructive fashion, because you can then go and explore and see the impact. By using this dashboard, which we actually gave, so this dashboard allows you to filter by category, by article type, so how-to, education, defect, tech support case, those kinds of things. We allowed it by time, by product. So this dashboard was really customizable to the individual who is going to use it. In this case, the tech support engineers who were in the support liaison program and all of the development team. And so by having that very individualized conversation around data, each of those people could find the data and the points that mattered to them and create strategies to solve the problems that were impacting the customers directly through their code. So we rolled out that feature, and we rolled out the database. And this was just one feature that was built because of all of these conversations. We track the number of features as well that we succeed in getting through to solve supportability cases. And what we found was that we provided a clear ROI story. We were able to say X number of customers have encountered this Y times in this time period, and it's impacting them. We used the tech support cases themselves to provide the voice of the customer, which was the pain points. And it really, I mean, it's some of those things, they're really visceral. You look at the code that you've written and you think, I've written this fabulous thing, and then you see this tech support case from a customer saying, what on earth have you done? And you go, oh, didn't think about it that way. And now you have the data to know. And then we also used the PM's creativity, because everybody wants to solve problems. Nobody likes hearing over again about something, so the way to not hear over and over about something is to solve it. And so by building a dashboard and having the tech support liaisons be involved on a regular cadence in a week, the weekly basis, we got people to be engaged with the data regularly, and we drove change. And the cool part is, this is that same viz that I showed, this is the same curve that I showed you previously, just extending the time period. And we started the Support Liaisons program right around in here. And I will freely admit, the Support Liaisons program is not the only reason that this curve is decreasing. But we know from what we've seen that we are impacting product quality, and we are driving down cases. Yes, self-support is also a part of that, but we've been increasing self-support through the Liaisons program as well, because we have ideas and features that we can build into the product because of the support cases we've seen. So we have changed the product, and we've changed the way that our development team and our tech support team interact. We've built this bridge across, and that bridge was the data and the relationships amongst the people that we were able to build because of the data. And so because of that, we have now driven the change.
Nobody works over Christmas.
Yes, his comment was nobody works over Christmas and New Year's. Yes, so you will see that this is very cyclical. This, every year, dunk, cases go way down. And then again, doctor, there, and there, and there, and there. Oh wait, I take that back. That one is not doctor. That one was a Chrome defect that took out us and a bunch of other companies because Chrome put out something that was incompatible with a bunch of drivers. But they fixed it quickly because we all had the data to say, hey, excuse me, you've broken our stuff. So we consider this a win. And the way that we know it is a win is because we have sales data. And the sales data is not doing this same shape it's not going down. So as a percentage of sales, our tech support case need is going down. And we love that. It is validation that our ROI story that we presented to the PMs is real. So we needed to know our customers. We had some old code. We had customer cases. And in each of these things, which, I mean, each of those are different problems, right? They're not the same. Refactoring and answering tech support cases, they're vastly different. But our use of data and the way that we were able to engage the people who needed the data, that was what was different. And by using our little model here, we were able to drive permanent change. And we know it's permanent change. I mean, that graph that I just showed you, that was a year and a half's worth of data of change. So we've taken it from being the initial conversation where you look at the data and you go, oh, this is cool, to being okay, I have regularly engaged with the data. I use the data, and it has changed the way my workflow goes. And so by doing that, we have created lasting change. I fully expect that we will need to create other types of lasting change. But this is one model that seems to really work for Tableau. And so we thought, well, we ought to share it with all of you. Because we know that having conversations with data can be challenging. Not everybody wants to engage with data. Not everybody is a data geek initially. But if you can show them intellectually, emotionally, why the data is important and how it impacts them as an individual, the individual request is really important. If you just say, oh, well, you know, this company is impacted, that doesn't have nearly the behavioral change driver that an impact or that an individual impact has. The individual stories, the customization of the data, the impact that an individual can make. And then you ask for concrete, measurable commitments. And you follow through on those. So the dashboard I showed you for the community idea where we have the once a week email out, that was following through on that commitment to see whether or not people were actually, and very visually, are you engaging with the data regularly? The Tableau TV Vizzes, they're another way that we as an organization hold people accountable for the commitments they make. And we don't do it in a mean way. It's not punitive. It's a celebration of achievement. But it starts with each of them making that individual commitment all the way up. So that's my spiel. Does anyone have questions for me? No? This was perfectly clear? Awesome! All right. Well, in that case, I may give you 10 minutes of your day back because I know we all could use an extra 10 minutes because it's been a busy week. And I want to say thank you all for coming to see me talk about this. And I hope that you came out of it with at least some useful information. And they do have a Rate the App. And then if you are interested in reaching out to me for more information about anything, this is who I am. Thank you very much for attending, and have safe journeys on your way home.